things first, a collection of things we saw we loved. And Brandon, you loved Cody Bellinger's dinger and the celebration.
This guy is so good. He's been doing it his entire life. And you know why? Because he learns from his mistakes. Kids, if you're watching this guy, you can learn from him. Don't continue to make the same mistakes over and over and over again. You go back, Game 7, NLCS, closeout game. He hits a home run. He celebrates with his team. He separates his shoulder. And what does he do this game? He slaps another one out. And then he goes and celebrates by kicking feet or whatever you call this celebration. Wiles, I know you probably like this. I don't like it, but it was very smart.
No,
it was really smart on Cody's part.
I love kid and play, so yes.
All right, sticking with Bellinger, all in the family.
This is the closest you're ever going to get to Jordan slander from me. You'll get it a lot from Nick. Cody Bellinger hit a home run in the World Series last night. Also hit a home run in the Little League World Series. And guess what? Where did he learn it from? Yeah, he learned it. He tries really hard. Also, his dad was in the World Series, won 2 rings with the Yankees. So I know everyone else, like, the best marketing move that ever happened, Nick, is when Wyden and Kennedy released, they figured out the Jordan strategy, like, cut from his team. Cut from his high school team, just like you. Just like you, 5'7" kid. Michael Jordan, the world's greatest athlete, was cut from his team. That's not how it works. Cody Bellinger's hitting home runs. He hit one in the Little League World Series. His dad's in the World Series. He's not getting cut from his JV varsity baseball team. It's just not happening. Sorry, that's the way it goes. You can still spend all the money on your coaches, though.
All right, let's stick with baseball for Clayton Kershaw, Nick.
All right, I've been riding this Clayton Kershaw on the playoff horse for his whole career. And I've been bucked to the ground many a time. But I've always gotten back on it and believed in it. And yesterday on this very show, I said this. Tonight is the night. 7 innings, 4 hits, 8 Ks, 1 earned. Some redemption for Clayton Kershaw. About as close to a perfect prediction as one could ever have. I blame Dave Roberts personally for not trotting him out there for a 7th inning where he obviously would have given up 2 more hits, no runs, struck out no one, and I would have gone with the superfecta innings, hits, runs case. What, Wilds? What? What are you calling timeout on?
Because the whole point of this segment is like find something interesting in the world of sports. And you're telling the producers,
He finds himself interesting.
I know what's interesting. My own prediction? Like, no.
Yeah.
That is pretty good.
We're no longer
putting
you know
what we need to do?
in the show.
No, wait a
We need to
second.
do a whole segment
I would
on
have
all
agreed
of
with
Nick's
you.
predictions.
I agree.
We need to do an entire segment on all your predictions.
Wait, Jenna,
you're really good.
Agreed. But thank you, Brandon. But Brandon is the one that got us down this trail. Brandon on Monday was like, hey, look at my preseason list. This team's 5-0. This team's 5-0. And I said, okay, if that's the game we're going to play, then I'm going to do it with video. So that's the game we're going to play here, Jenna. Blame Brandon Marshall.
Such guys. You're such dudes. Gosh, look how awesome I am. Anyway, look how awesome I am. Here's my 4 things first. I just love Mookie Betts. This guy is such a baller. Yep. Take last night's game. Draws a walk, you know, steals 2 bases. First player since Babe Ruth did it to do this in a World Series games. Then he hits a home run. An absolutely electric base stealer. I mean, is there a better guy that runs the bases? You saw the way he came home.
Money.
But here's the thing. Yes, such a baller. You know what else he is? He's a hydrator. And he doesn't bring one of those little water bottles you get at some weird, like, yoga studio. The guy brings a bathtub to the stadium. He gobbles down that water after an inning like that the way he's supposed to, because everyone knows me and Tom Brady, maybe you, Brandon, and obviously Mookie Betts. You know the old saying, drink your body weight in ounces of water, and you, too, will become
There you go.
You'll be healthy, and you'll be a good player. You know, it rhymed when I did it. But Mookie Betts, an absolute gift from Boston to L.A. Let's talk some Atlanta Falcons now. To say this team has underwhelmed and underachieved this season would be an understatement. A 1-5 start, Dan Quinn fired, and now a report that NFL insiders are openly wondering about the team cleaning house, possibly shipping out franchise cornerstones Matt Ryan and Julio Jones before the November 3rd trade deadline. Now, are there teams that need a quarterback? Certainly. Are there some who need a wide receiver? Patriots. So, Brian, let me ask you, if you were running the Falcons, would you clean house before the trade deadline, get rid of these two guys?
Well, Jenna, I certainly would begin the conversations. Now, I'm not giving away either one of these players for pennies on the dollar, especially at this point because you have them on underneath contract for next year. But I'm starting to have the conversation. If someone comes to me and says, we'll give you something crazy, some picks and some money, then, of course, I would get rid of these guys. But I had to go back and look. And my thinking was, we know Matt Ryan is a very good quarterback, probably a Hall of Famer. We also know Julio has been the best wide receiver in the game for a very long time, certainly a Hall of Famer. In Julio's 10 years there in Atlanta, how good have they been? And I was a little disappointed. They've only won the NFC South Championship twice in the 2 years. They've only been the best team in that division 2 times. And so it's kind of disappointing. To me, at this point, it's absolutely time to break this thing apart. It's going to depend on the offer that they're going to receive from the other teams in the NFL.
So I would be open to everything. I think you could get great value for Julio during the year. I think you could get more value for Matt Ryan after the year. And I think the Falcons could find themselves with their own top 5 pick, plus a first-rounder and then some for Matt Ryan and a first-rounder and then some for Julio, and start to really retool this whole thing. But that's the more analytical approach. The more emotional approach, which gets you to the same result, is sometimes in life, you have such a terrible moment that you need to almost cleanse yourself of everything from that moment in order to move on. And that Super Bowl loss, if you're the Falcons and their fans, you might need to trade Matt Ryan, trade Julio, change the jersey colors, consider a name change, and just move on. You finally got rid of Dan Quinn, you got rid of the GM, but every time a team is up 28-3 in college football or pro football, the Falcons memes start coming. It does not matter the scenario. That is continually thrown at them. And as they invent new ways to lose this year, it still is clearly in the psyche of some of these players. And so I just think that they need a full body cleanse of that moment. And if you can all of a sudden have a bounty of draft capital go along with a new head coach, a new GM, all of it, all the better, Brandon.
I think it's idiotic. The name of the game is to win, whether in sports and in business. Once I read this book by Jim Collins, he wrote some of the best business imprints out there, from good to great, from built to last, how the mighty fall. I read this one book, Good to Great, his first book, Good to Great. And in it talks about new regimes coming in. New regime come in, new CEO. Sometimes the bad CEOs, you know what they do? They clean house right away. And then they also lay out their plans. Here's my plan. This is what I'm going to do. The really good CEOs, they come in, they sit back, and they say, you know what, let me observe. Let me see what's going on. They take time, and they learn what's working, what's not working. They learn who should be on the bus and who should not be on the bus. And they also talk about sometimes you have everything you need right there. You may need to take somebody from the front of the bus and move them to the back of the bus. You may need to move somebody from the first row to the second row. I hate when new regimes come in and they say, you know what, let's clean house right now. Well, if the name of the game is winning, and you have 2 of the best players in franchise history that can still do it, why would you move on? What else is better? Now, if you tank and if you get the first pick, you got the quarterback, Trevor, that could potentially come in and be the guy for the next 10, 15 years. But right now, you can bring in a coach that can solve this problem, that can come in and say, you know what, from a scheme standpoint, we just didn't have what we needed. We need to just tweak some things from our mindset. We may need to add 1 or 2 things around these great players, these core players, and we could potentially win that division for the 3rd time in 11 years, Brian. So I don't like it. I think you start first by hiring a new GM. You bring in a head coach, let them do their due diligence, and go from there.
I love it. Nick is literally saying, don't call yourself the Falcons anymore. And Brandon's like, hey, we can win the Super Bowl. Let's figure it out. We're at polar opposites.
I didn't say Super Bowl.
I kind of trend towards Brandon, Jenna. I hate to say it. They lost to the Seahawks. No big deal. Seahawks are great. They lost to the Cowboys on that stupid onside kick. They could have won that game. Cowboys, meanwhile, are like, how can we get to the playoffs? The Falcons are like, let's change our jerseys. They lost to the Bears on that Nick Foles weird comeback, and then they got 2 other losses. I wasn't convinced they were that bad, and one of those losses to the Packers. I wasn't convinced they were that bad, Brian. I was like, man, they're okay.
Been 8 years. In the last 8 years, they've been above 500 twice. You're not tearing down a successful business. You're tearing down a business that is constantly underachieved. 8 years.
But think about this though. Yeah. Coach Quinn. He's a defensive guy. Your best players are on offense. How about go get an offensive-minded coach? How about we start there and let's see what happens? Let's see what Matt Ryan and Julio Jones can do then in the win-loss column. That's what we need to think about. Instead of just coming in and saying, oh, it's the players, it's the players. Yep. Could it be that we just didn't have the scheme?
Brian Westbrook, thank you so much as always. Hey, the World Series got underway last night. What a way to kick off the Fall Classic for Clayton Kershaw. Nick Swisher joins us next, talk some baseball. This is First Things First.